Hello, welcome back to the Red Devils Den podcast. So we're back after almost 3 weeks. So had a bit of a break, but we're back now, hopefully regularly. So we're going to go through the last sort of five games or so since we've been gone, um, as a whole, and then move on to other stuff. So United vs Urgent, do you think the form has sort of been concerning going into the Europa League final because it's not been the best, has it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one win in five matches, I think. And there's some extenuating circumstances there. The second leg against Roma, we were obviously 6-2 up, so it wasn't a huge deal. Against Leicester, we basically played children for part of the match, so again, not a huge deal. But the way that we struggled to cope with Liverpool is concerning. Although they've hit some form now, you would expect us to do better given the way both teams' seasons have gone. And then against Fulham, the draw was, I mean, it was about the fair result, honestly. Looking at the XG, I think Fulham actually had slightly better XG than we did. I know that there were some good chances where Greenwood might have scored in the second half, that we might have won the game. But all in all, I thought it wasn't unfair that they got a draw. So it is definitely concerning that we're kind of stumbling into the final. The thing that gives me hope, though, is Bruno Fernandes had the interview after the match where he said essentially that he's confident the team will be able to turn it back on for the final. And obviously, it's more difficult to try and get results when the whole team is essentially. They're aware that nothing they do is going to really change their league position, right? They're going out there for pride, and the other team obviously are more motivated to, oh, we're going to go beat the second place team in the Premier League, or we're going to go win at Old Trafford. So given that circumstance, I'm not horribly surprised that our form has kind of tailed off. You look at Man City; it's been the same for them. They lost to Brighton this week, so it's not entirely surprising that things have gone the way they have. But it is a little bit concerning that we're not going into the Europa League final in the best psychological state.
Yeah, definitely. Um, did you think the form is sort of concerning because, as I say, 1 win in five, it's not doesn't look good, does it?
Yeah, I mean, like Resurgence said, if you take the games individually, each has its own set of contexts. The Roma game was almost done, so you could play the reserves, you could do a bit of rotation, and then see what happens. And yes, it was a close game. Ultimately, Roma won, but then in the overall scheme of things, the job was done at the first leg itself. Against Leicester, we had to play the kids because of fixture schedule. And I mean, let's be honest, we didn't have that many expectations for that game itself. So we were happily settling for a draw. So, and it wasn't surprising to see us lose. If anything, we're just glad that it wasn't a battering and it was a narrow 1-2 win for Leicester. Against Liverpool, yeah, I mean, that was a disappointing game if you think about it, because we started off well, got the initial goal, we couldn't capitalize on that, and then after that, Liverpool just came out all guns blazing. And I think they had more to play for than us, because for us, top form is pretty much done. Even before the Leicester, I mean, just after the Leicester game itself, top four is pretty much done, and we had nothing to play for. Liverpool, on the other hand, they had everything to play. They needed top four, so they needed all four out of four, and I think they're on course to achieve that. So yeah, I mean, disappointing though. And then the Fulham game as well. First game with the fans back in the stadium. We were great in the first half. We should have had at least a couple more, I feel, in the first half. Bruno had two good shots, which went straight to the goalkeeper. Felt he could have done better with that. And then he had the free kick as well in the second half, which I almost thought went into the top corner. Greenwood had a couple of chances as well. So it's not like we played badly. It's just that we couldn't convert our opportunities into goals. And then again, the usual goal that we concede, our defense either gets drawn in or it's a set piece. It's become one of those two things for us lately. And that's exactly what happened. Our defense gets drawn in, one of their fullbacks gets all the space in the world and takes a shot at goal. And so, barring that, I think we played pretty well. And like I was saying yesterday, I'm actually not worried for the final, because yes, we've just 1-5. But the one thing that I've seen when it comes to finals and knockout games is the league form goes out of the window. It doesn't matter whether you've won 5 out of 5 or whether you won 1 out of 5. If you don't play well on that day, you're not going to win. Simple as that. And it's a completely new game. It's a completely new situation. It doesn't matter what you've been doing in the league. So for me, yes, there is a bit of concern in the sense that, I just hope the team doesn't get too complacent into the final. But in terms of like performance wise, I'm not actually worried at all. And like Bruno said, it's a matter of just flicking that switch on for that occasion. And yeah, I think we should be fine.
Just to build on what Vin just said, we saw this in the FA Cup final just now. Leicester won the final, but Leicester, if we had asked before the match, everyone would say, "Oh, Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel have been in great form. They're making a charge for the top four." Meanwhile, Leicester are about to bottle it again, and so it didn't matter in the final. Ultimately, Leicester were able to win. So there's every chance that the league form will go out of the window. Although obviously, you'd rather go in better form than worse.
Yeah, definitely. So United Dynamo FC will call you Daniel, and the other Dan could be Dan. So Daniel, do you sort of agree with Vin that it's not that concerning going into the final?
Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all, really. I see a lot of people on like Twitter and things like that, like making like sweeping statements in regards to what the form means just for us as a team, not even just in terms of the final. And I think that side of things is completely ridiculous. That it's the most hectic season on record. The team is understandably so tired, and when you're tired, you don't have that consistency. Like if you're trying to make any sort of sweeping statements from that, it's really not. It doesn't make sense to do so, because next season the team's going to be completely back to normal in terms of the scheduling. They'll be able to rest properly and things like that. So then, if in that's one respect, and then in the second respect, in terms of directly for the final, I'm not particularly worried, because like the others have said, when you break down the games, there's pretty much circumstances for all of them that I'm really not worried. The first team will come back in. They'll be right up for the final. They'll know it's the last game of the season. They can give everything they have left. Yeah, I'm not worried in terms of the fitness aspect. I'm a bit concerned because of injuries, but we'll get to that later. In terms of the fitness side of things, I'm not worried for this game at all.
Yeah, do you think it's possible though to sort of just turn that switch on, as Vin was saying? Because I remember Gary Neville was saying in commentary, he thinks that's just impossible. You need to go into it confident.
I don't think it's an ideal situation, but I don't think it will be a problem. Obviously, you want to go into the game on the back of really good form with good results, but I don't think it's an issue because of the circumstances. It's not as if all of the players have been playing constantly in these bad results. There's been rotation, there's been circumstances where we haven't gone 100%. I don't think it's a case of we've played 5 games where we've gone all out and still lost them. Circumstances have affected the situation. So I think it's not quite as simple as we're in poor form. That's not a good omen going into the final.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And Dan, last but not least, what were your thoughts on the form?
Oh, he seems to have disappeared.
No, I'm
there
back.
He is.
No, well, I definitely agree with the boys, with the Roma and the Leicester results being, completely forgivable. I did find myself being really frustrated at the end of both the Liverpool and the Fulham game, to be honest, because I know they're not, massively important. At the end of the day, I still want to watch my club win football games, you know what I mean? And especially after the Villa game was obviously a good win, but you had the Roma game, the Leicester game, the Liverpool game. So obviously at the weekend, after a sort of string of bad results and then obviously a good one against Leicester, the Fulham game I felt was like a bit of a gift in the scheduling, where we could get a good comprehensive win against the side that had already been relegated. We could dominate the game, we could score goals. We can really turn it on. I was really looking forward to it because I just wanted to, a bit of a change from the results that have happened. Obviously, it's not massively important in the grand scheme of things, and we did end up securing second. I would have loved to have rather done that ourselves, really. And the game itself, I felt that we dominated the game, really. And I think we had more than enough opportunities to put it to bed, even in the first half, really. And sort of saying to myself, if we don't score, they're going to score. And, it's the same really, with the Everton late equaliser, across into the box and the equaliser, we responded really, really poorly to that. I don't think that we created anything after that, really. And I felt the centre back pairing was really, really ropey as well at the weekend for certain parts. When they put the pressure on, they looked really, really jittery. I felt personally, anyway. As far as the final, I am a bit worried because it's Spanish opposition, notoriously difficult. You've got Emery, who's a massive winning competition. We was a hope really that they can turn it on, like Bruno said, but the momentum hasn't been brilliant. But I know we're going to be heavily rotated at the weekend. But a win on the final day, I feel would be just a tonic. Just to end the season on a bit of a high note. So, yeah.
I don't mean to scare anybody when it comes to the form of Villarreal, but I was looking at it just now, and they've won 4 of their last 6 matches. The other one was a draw and a loss, so I guess that would be pretty good win percentage there. And then their last match,
they just comprehensively beat Sevilla.
I was about to say they beat Sevilla 4-0. It was a 10-man Sevilla, admittedly, and they had a center back sent off, so they were defensively light, and Sevilla's in that similar stage to us in the season where their results don't really matter. They can't really win the league, but they can't fall out of top 4. So it's understandable that they would tail off a little bit, but 4-0 is still 4-0. And that's a little
Sevilla,
bit,
didn't it, as well? Had to be them.
Yeah, but the good news is, though, in the final match this weekend on Saturday, and keep in mind Sevilla play Saturday, or Villarreal play Saturday, we play Sunday. Villarreal are going away to the training ground stadium that Real Madrid are using. So hopefully, with Madrid going for the title, they'll be coming in off of a loss as well in the Europa League.
Yeah, hopefully. And just sort of touching on the injuries, as Daniel was talking about. So obviously, Maguire, we know he's out, and we know he's sort of a doubt for the final. It doesn't exactly look good because he's still on crutches, and McTominay and Fred are also possibly injured. I think it was Samuel Luckhurst who said they might be a doubt for the final. So
that means he's definitely fit then, if Samuel Luckhurst said it.
Yeah, true. But Dan, are you concerned about that at all?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
I mean, you can't possibly not be. The last couple of games, the back fours just look different, and everyone. Although a lot of this we knew before how important he is, you're really, really seeing now that £80 million was not a lot of money for Harry Maguire. It's not just his massive head and there's magnetised the balls coming into the box. You're seeing his leadership, his composure. How he breaks lines with the balls, how he moves from our final third into the middle of the park and lays the ball off. That's been lacking. And I felt on Sunday, I thought it was really noticeable that Lindelof tried to take a lot of that onto himself, especially with bringing the ball out from the back. But he's not Harry Maguire, and I think he's obviously been a very, very noticeable absence, and that does really concern me. And I saw something that was quite interesting the other day. I think on Twitter, actually, it's a bit like sort of conspiracy-like, but I saw someone say something that maybe United should have sort of kept Harry away from the cameras and away from the media, as Villarreal could possibly be watching on, and they'll have a plan for Lindelof and Axel and things like that. And it does make you think, and whether they've sort of put him there, to make him appear like he's not going to be involved, but he is going to be involved. I just really fucking hope he is, and I'm really scared if he's not.
I mean, the crutches could just be deception. They could just be, there for, he's injured. He's not going to be there. Nah, he's not fit. But then all of a sudden
I hope that they're deception, but I will say, if they're not deception, then he has no chance of playing in the final. The only hope we have is that the club are trying to play Villarreal through the media.
Yeah. So do you guys, are you sort of concerned about McTominay and Fred not being fit as well? because they've obviously been, a long, they've played a lot of games and they've been quite important in my opinion at least. What were your thoughts on it, Daniel?
I would be worried if they were going to be out, but I kind of, the way the situation was described with their injuries, it didn't sound particularly serious. So I'd imagine they'll probably get a rest for the Wolves game and then they'll be fine for the final. So it's not like the situation with Maguire where I'm kind of trying to accept the fact that he's not going to make it. I would be surprised if at least one, but probably both of McTominay and Fred don't make it.
Yeah. Vin, what were your thoughts on the injury situation? Obviously, I think we all agree that it's concerning.
Yeah, I mean, we've all spoken about Maguire and how important a miss he's going to be. I hope, as Dan said, that conspiracy theory does come through and it's nothing but a game of deception. I really hope it is. But I mean, again, it's far-fetched. We're clutching on straws earlier, so whatever makes us feel happier. But yeah, I mean, his presence obviously has been missed, and I feel not just at the back defensively, maintaining his lines and maintaining the defensive shape. I think he's not really been crucial in that, but also when carrying out attacks, playing from the back. I think the way he does, being a ball playing center back that he is, the way he sort of brings the ball forward and plays from the back, I think not enough other center backs can do it as good as he does. And so I think that's where he's been a miss as well. And it's been visible in the past couple of games, especially when we begin our attacks from the back. We can see there's a bit of hesitancy whenever Tuanzebe or Lindelof play from the back. There's a bit of hesitancy because Maguire does it just effortlessly, seamlessly. I'm just gonna stick to that. Seamlessly, most of the times. And I think so. Those are the two areas where we really miss him. And yeah, and let's just hope he somehow, by a miracle, comes up and deceives Unai Emery. As for McTominay and Fred, I'm not really sure what the severity of their injury is. It didn't seem like it was that serious. I think none of them walked out on a stretcher. They were limping at best, I think, which tells me that I think a week's rest should be good enough for them to recover and just be fully prepared for the match. They may not be 100% match fit, but even if they're at like 70-75%, I think Ole plays them. So again, we just have to wait and see from Ollie doing the Wolves presser if there's any more information on them. But yeah, I don't see them playing against Wolves, and I'll definitely, hopefully, let's see if they can make it for the final.
So, do you think, Dan, that obviously Bay and Fans have been sort of rotating? Would you play Bay or Fans in the final? Because obviously Bay has more experience, but personally, I think Axel's been better in these past couple of games.
I would agree with you. I do think I think Axel's doing better as well, but at the same time, it's a bloody big game, and is it going to be a bit too much for Axel? You just simply don't know. I mean, obviously he done really well in Paris, but since that he sort of hasn't been able to hit those sort of heights. So is he going to thrive on that sort of situation? I think it's a big risk. It's a big risk, and one that Ollie's going to have to weigh up himself. To be honest, I mean, I've said yes, I would play Axel, but at the same time, I'm in an hour about it myself, and I'll probably still will be on the day of the final if Maguire's not fit. So right now, as I sit here, yes, I would probably play Axel Tuanzebe, but by next week, I could say around I think it's completely up in the air.
Yeah, fair enough. Daniel, you have an opinion on this. What do you think?
So I would play Axel as well, assuming Maguire's not fit. The reason being is that it's kind of 50-50 what that you're going to get if he plays. He could put in an absolute world-class performance and we win the game quite comfortably, or he could do something absolutely catastrophic and then we concede a few goals from it. And I don't think the final is the game to play that lottery. I feel like Axel's in fairly decent form at the moment, and there's a bit less of a discrepancy between what he could do well and what could go wrong. He's more consistent. I don't want to take that risk with Bailly.
Yeah, that's fair enough. United Resurgent, what do you think, Axel or Eric Bailly?
Yeah, so I'm going to step back a little bit and also address the Harry Maguire situation because I think it plays into this. I think one of the things that the last couple of matches have made abundantly clear for those who had their head in the sand and maybe weren't as keen on Harry Maguire as the rest of us were, is that our center backs, we have 5 in the squad, but they exist on 4 different levels. I'm going to compare them to cars, I guess, just to make an easy example here. Harry Maguire is an absolute Rolls Royce of a center back, top tier. There's very little wrong with him. You can poke holes here and there, but really he's near perfect. And then underneath that, you have Victor Lindelof, who's like a Mercedes Benz, very, very good. Not quite on the same level as Maguire, but there's a lot of quality there. And then underneath that, you've got Axel and Eric Bailly, who are, in my opinion, are on the same level, or basically a Honda or a Vauxhall or something like that, kind of just your average everyday man's car, and Nissan, whatever. And then you have Phil Jones, who's like a bicycle with a punctured tire. So that's kind of the way I look at our center backs. And I think it's an even choice between Axel and Eric Bailly. I think whatever Ollie picks is reasonable. I take Daniel's point that Eric Bailly is prone to doing Eric Bailly things and kind of going off on ridiculous, making ridiculous challenges or stepping out when he shouldn't. But I was looking back at the goal that Fulham scored, and my friend at Kieran Hassan flagged this on Twitter, that Axel stepping out from defense is actually what led to Luke Shaw having to step up, which created the space that allowed the cross to go in the first place. And I've noticed this a lot with Axel Tuanzebe, that he is overly keen, in my opinion, to step away from the zone that he's supposed to defend, because it's important to remember United defends zonally. We don't defend man to man. And the side effect of that is you have to stay in your zone. And Axel Tuanzebe is way too keen to step out of his zone. Eric Bailly might be a mental bastard and he might be willing to just try to completely take somebody out, or he might pass the ball to the opposition a little bit more often than Axel does. Although Axel has done that a couple of times when he's played. So while there's a little bit more risk, I think with the experience and I think the positioning of Eric Bailly is superior to that of Axel Tuanzebe. I think I would go with Eric Bailly. The other reason would be Axel, at least against Fulham, played on the left of the center back pairing, and Eric Bailly always plays on the right, and Lindelof would move over to the left. The advantage of having the replacement center back on the right is you have Aaron Wan-Bissaka there, who defends a little bit deeper than Luke Shaw and also is better at a last-minute tackle. So we have someone who can cover that little bit better. And so for me, I would go with the experience of Eric Bailly. I also think Eric Bailly is going to be here next season, whereas this would be Axel's last game, so I don't know where he is mentally. So for me, I would go with Eric Bailly.
All right, fair enough. So Vin, you haven't read in on this topic yet. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, picking between Tuanzebe and Bailly, it's like Resurgent put it well. It's like picking between 2 Mercedes Benz.
No. They were a level below that.
Oh, you said, that's Lindelof.
Lindelof was the Mercedes Benz. Lindelof's quality.
Yeah,
The other two were very average.
Right. So it's like, okay. So it's like picking between a Honda and a Toyota, if I can put it that way, right? Yeah, both of them have their own sets of advantages and they have their own deficiencies as center backs. I think with regards to Tuanzebe, what the surgeon pointed out in the build up to the goal that we conceded, I think his keenness to sort of just have that extra bit of aggression and just step out of his position could be, I think, due to a lack of a lack of experience or just not playing enough, and also could be that yes, maybe he's learning during training and he's learning from the coaches, but because he's not getting enough game time, he's not really sort of being able to fine tune that on the pitch when it matters. So that could be a reason. But I mean, overall, I don't know, because with Bailly, it's like Bailly's fast, right? And he does mad things, and he'll put out the most insane of tackles, and he'll put his body out there quite literally, and he'll just do something or the other to get the ball away. And Tuanzebe, on the other hand, on the eye, he seems more assuring. He seems more calm. When he does the cycles and when he skips past players, gets out of the pressing trap, he seems more calm. So it's a really tough choice for me as to who gets picked for the final. But if it were down to me, just by a tiny margin, I'd pick Tuanzebe.
Yeah, I'd agree on that. Okay, so topic over. I think most of us said Axel. Eli was the only one who said B, I think. So yeah, unlucky.
It's
But,
funny actually because I don't particularly rate Eric Bailly if it wasn't already clear. I wanted him sold this summer before he signed his new contract. I would have preferred to keep Axel long term. I just think the last couple of performances, Axel hasn't filled me with confidence, and when I'm not filled with confidence with either, I'd rather go with the experience.
Yeah.
It makes it so difficult though, because you can either get match-winning Eric Bailly against Aston Villa, or you can get Eric Bailly against Tottenham at the start of the season.
Exactly.
He doesn't make it easy.
Or Eric Bailly against PSG in the quarterfinal when Ollie was still the interim, where I think he was subbed off after half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. That contract renewal of Bailly still surprises me to this day. I'm like, why have you done that? I mean, what does that indicate for Tuanzebe? What does that indicate for the new centre back? I mean, who's getting sold? Because you have to offload one, at least one. And it's not Phil Jones who's going to go.
Phil Jones will go, but he doesn't count. He doesn't play. So I think ultimately the contract renewal for Eric Bailly is the death knell for the Manchester United career of Axel Tuanzebe. I think he's gone this summer. 10, 15 million probably to Aston Villa or something like that. And we'll go on and see him become a great center back in the Premier League like Johnny Evans has done. And people will look back and say, why was Eric Bailly kept instead of him? But I don't think he's ever going to be that world-class center back where if United get a good one this summer, we're going to desperately miss him either.
Do you think it could have been like just as a cover to protect his value, Bailly's value in the transfer market? Do you think that could have been one of the reasons for the renewal?
So the problem with that is if it was a renewal to protect the value, typically that's done with a player who effectively is being kept for a little while, or rather a better example is Matteo Darmian. He was out of contract. We triggered a 1-year clause in his contract to extend it, and then we sold him 3 months later. That's how you protect the value. The problem with a player who wants to leave, which is what was reported with Eric Bailly before he renewed, signing to protect the value is what's the benefit for the player? I mean, what they want is to have as low of a transfer fee as possible so as many clubs as possible can afford them. So it doesn't make sense from Eric Bailly's perspective to renew if that was the case. Plus, we've seen this season, the evidence is there. Whenever both have been fit, and Harry Maguire has been fit, and Ollie's had to bring in somebody to partner him, Ollie's always preferred Eric Bailly to Axel Tuanzebe. Axel's barely gotten any minutes by comparison. So I think the evidence is there. The way Ollie views his center back hierarchy is Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, Eric Bailly, Axel Tuanzebe, and then Phil Jones, because no one else plays center back. So I think that's the way Ollie views it. And so for him, what he's thinking is, well, I get rid of the bottom two, which would be Axel and Phil Jones, and then I bring in a new center back to slot between Harry Maguire and Lindelof. And now all of a sudden I've got Maguire and Varane, Torres, whoever, right? And then I've got Lindelof and Bailly as my backup options. And so I think that's what Ollie's working towards, but we'll see in a couple of months.
Okay, so it's a pretty big step up going from Axel or Bailly to Sancho to Kane, but we're going to talk about it. So would you guys prefer Jadon Sancho in a summer or Harry Kane? Dan, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I've made my feelings abundantly clear throughout the months that we've been doing this, and if anyone following the Twitter account, exactly the same. We have to go and get Jadon Sancho. We cannot change now just because all of this stuff's come out in the last week about Kane wanting to leave. You would hope that Ollie and John and potentially Ed have sat and talked about summer targets, for many, many, many months. And, all the things that were in place for Sancho already as of last summer, personal contracts and things like that, agent fees. So, yeah, Ollie would have looked at holes in the squad. I mean, he knew that we needed him last summer, and nothing's changed. I mean, I know that obviously we went out and got Pavistri and Ahmad, but we know their sort of situation. I don't think anything's changed. We still need Jadon Sancho. We should still buy Jadon Sancho, especially now that, we're getting a cut price deal on a player that's probably worth the money that Borussia Dortmund wanted last summer. Given his potential and his age and his goal involvements and the numbers that he puts out, he probably was worth what they wanted. And now you've got an opportunity this summer to get him at, it's still a lot of money, but it's a cut price deal, and I think it would be ridiculous not to take it up. And I think we absolutely need to get it done fast because the Sharks are circling. We know that Chelsea are interested. There was some Liverpool interest, where we don't know how true that was or to what extent. I'm still firmly in the Jadon Sancho camp. He's exactly what we need. He's exactly what we have needed for a number of years. And I don't think you can deflect from that just because Harry Kane becomes available. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. I just think he fits us so much better because if you look at Harry Kane, yeah, he's beyond world class. I would agree with that. But Jadon Sancho is world class as well, and he's what, 20, 21. But it's not just that. We don't need a striker like we need a right winger because we've got Cavani, we've got Martial and Mason Greenwood who can do a job as well. And if you look at the right hand side, we just haven't really had a proper right winger for years. Mason Greenwood, I think long term is a striker. His finishing ability is second to none, and I think that's why he should be there. He's learning a lot from Cavani. I think he's going to be a striker long term because of that. And we haven't really got anyone else who can play right on the right wing. We've got Amad Diallo, but he's still much too young. So I think and we need a wide creator as well. We've gone through that loads of times. Just someone who can create more chances from the wing. So again, I just think he fits us so much better. Daniel, would you agree with that? What do you think?
Yeah, so you two have kind of discussed the on the pitch stuff, and I completely agree with that. Sancho over Kane, but then it also points that way with the financial side as well. So, for example, I was listening to an interview with Rob Dawson yesterday, and he gave an estimate that he thinks our net spend for the window is going to be between like 100, 150 million, something between there. And if you could, every report that's come out about Kane pretty much is saying Levy would want 150 million to sell Kane. So that's our entire budget gone, and then we'd have one player. Whereas Sancho is about 75 to 80 million. So you could get him, and then you still have enough in the bank to address the other positions we need. So we need Sancho more than Kane anyway. But then when you look at the actual process of if you were going to make it happen, then Sancho gives you the option to then sign a defensive midfielder, sign a centre back. But if you went and got Kane, you don't have that money. It's all going on Kane. So yeah, we need Sancho in just about every sense of the decision over Kane.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know if any of Vin or United surgeon want Kane, but Vin, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, the three of you have summed it up pretty well. I really don't have much to add. I mean, except for the fact that Jadon Sancho for 3 consecutive seasons in a row now has got 30 goals and assists, and on the right way as a right winger. Although this season he's played a fair share of games on the left as well, but again, that just shows his versatility on both wings. And say if something happens to Rashford, or if something happens to Martial, who I'm guessing might be playing on the left from next season onwards, we've always got Sancho as a backup over there in case if we have to play him there. And so just goes to show how much of how important a player he can be for us. And again, like you said, we haven't addressed the right wing for years now. And now that we have a good chance to get a quality player, a young player, at a cut price deal, really. Fabrizio stated could be about 80 to 90, anywhere in that range, 80 to 90 million. We can get that deal done, hopefully before the Euros. There, we've locked down the right wing for the next 8 years at least. And I mean, look, obviously the allure for Harry Kane is that he's a world-class striker, proven consistently in the league for five years now. and he's in his prime. He's at his peak, and you get him in. He's going to deliver you immediately. It's not going to be like a development sort of phase where he's going to take a year to settle in and then he's going to then start scoring. You get Kane now, he's what, 28? Bam, he starts scoring goals right away. And so if you're looking for a striker, there's no one better to look for than Harry Kane. And so in an ideal scenario where we've got our right wing sorted, we've got our defensive midfielder sorted, and we've got our centre back issue sorted. In that scenario, if this was 2022, I would say yes, let's go for Harry Kane. But we're in a situation where we have three other important positions to address first up, which would definitely contribute to the overall balance of the team. Getting Kane alone, and I've seen this notion 100 times on Twitter now, getting Kane wins you the league. There's no guarantee. I mean, it's not like when you sign him over that Daniel Levy gives a memorandum of guarantee or memorandum of understanding. It says, you sign Harry Kane, you're going to get the Premier League. There is no document, there's no form that comes with the signing. And so, yes, he strengthens you, absolutely, a quality player to have. But for the price that's being mentioned, Daniel Levy wants 150 million. And I'm not surprised because Tottenham have got a stadium loan to sort of recoup. And they've obviously lost a lot of money because of the pandemic and the fact that they want to join the ESL just shows that they're also in a bit of a financial wobble. And given that his star players wants to leave, he would want to get the absolute top dollar for that player. And ideally, he's going to price him out of a move, which is not ideal. But if you're the chairman of a club and your star player wants to leave, that's what you try to do. And so, yeah, for the money that's being quoted and situation that we have, it's not worth it. Focus on other areas, stick to the plan, and then let's see what happens. If he still stays at Tottenham and if he wants to leave in 2022, then yeah, maybe we can argue between Haaland and Kane on who should we go for. But at the moment, it's a no.
He's the icing on the cake, and we're still in the process of trying to build the cake.
That's an Ollie-esque analogy there.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. United Resurgent, you haven't gone yet? Well, I think you think the same as everyone else, don't you?
So I think it's an interesting situation. If you ask me who's the better player next season, Harry Kane is a better player than Jadon Sancho. Harry Kane is a level above where Jadon Sancho is right now at this point in his career. Harry Kane will give you 30-plus goal contributions in the league next season. Jadon Sancho, in my opinion, is probably good for about 20 to 25. So I think Harry Kane is the better player. I also think if you have a front three of Mason Greenwood, Harry Kane, and Marcus Rashford, that's a better front three than Jadon Sancho, Edinson Cavani, and Marcus Rashford. So I think Harry Kane is the better player. He improves us more as a team. I think he's a level above, as I said. The problem is the question isn't Harry Kane versus Jadon Sancho, as Daniel talked about. The transfer fees are different. If you look at it, Harry Kane, 150 million is the reported asking price, and then the cheapest number I've seen is maybe Spurs entertain at 120 million. If you go with that cheap number, 120 million, as Daniel was talking about, reliable sources have said that Jadon Sancho would go for about 75 million pounds this summer. So you're talking about at least 45 million more, which is to say at least Pau Torres's release clause more, at least Ismail Benacer's release clause more. So you're basically talking about an extra player, if not two extra players, if we talk about cheaper ones, on top of Jadon Sancho. And then the other thing that you're also talking about here is that Jadon Sancho is 21 years old. Harry Kane is 27, will be 28 by the time next season starts. So what sways it for me and the reason why I would go for Jadon Sancho is because A, he's significantly cheaper and we can get additional players, which means he's a better value. And then B, the other reason is his age. While I said Harry Kane is the better player today and will be next season, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, Jadon Sancho will be coming into his prime as a player, and he'll have stepped up another level, and he'll be at Harry Kane's level right now. Whereas Harry Kane will be 31, 32 years old. He already misses a month or two every season with an ankle injury. We've seen what happens when players start playing 60 games a season and are kind of relied upon by their team. They get run down very quickly. And I think, like with Wayne Rooney, I think we'll see Harry Kane's career at the top won't extend until he's 38 years old, 37 years old, like Cristiano Ronaldo. I think he's going to fall off when he's 32, 33, a lot like Wayne Rooney did. And given that situation, I think what we're going to see is whoever signs Harry Kane is going to be getting 3 to 4 years of peak Kane, and then they're going to be getting a diminishing return after that. Whereas with Jadon Sancho, you can get 10 years, and you get 2 to 3 years probably at the level he's at right now, then 3 to 4 years at a level above this, and then 3 to 4 years again at this level again when he falls off a little bit. So it's just the value for money, given both the time and the fact that you get additional players, means Jadon Sancho is by far the better signing this summer. I personally don't think that Harry Kane will move at all. I think what will happen is Man City will go in and they'll bid maybe 70 million plus Nathan Ake or something, and Daniel Levy will reject it because Daniel Levy is one of the world's most difficult people to negotiate with. We saw that with Dimitar Berbatov. We saw that with Gareth Bale. We saw it with Luka Modric. So I think what will happen is City will make a bid, it'll get rejected, and then City will walk away from that signing. We saw this last summer. Kalidou Koulibaly was their number one center back target. They made a bid. Aurelio De Laurentiis is kind of like the Italian Daniel Levy. And he basically said, no, I want, I think it was 80 million or something for Koulibaly. And they said, okay, no, we're going to sign Ruben Dias instead. And their scouting network is good enough that Ruben Dias was named the Football Writers Award Player of the Year just today. So I think what will happen is City will make a bid. It'll be rejected. They'll switch targets and sign somebody else. In the next summer, Harry Kane will still want to leave. And Erling Haaland's release clause will be active. And United will have hopefully plugged most of the holes in the team. And being a year further into his contract, a year older, Harry Kane will be a little bit cheaper, similar to how Jadon Sancho is this summer. And then maybe if you can't get Haaland, Kane is your backup option, and you can look into that if Greenwood isn't ready to be the number one striker next season, so the 2022-23 season. So I think Harry Kane is somebody who I'd like United to sign, but given the realities of this summer, he's not somebody we should be signing now.
Yeah, spot on. He's more of a luxury signing. Well,
Yeah.
not well. I mean, it's Harry Kane at the end of the day, so he's an amazing player, and he would fit the spot.
Yeah, just to add to that, obviously the rumors and the reports that have been coming out is that Harry Kane, if at all he wants to leave, he wants to leave for a Premier League club. He doesn't want to go out of England. Now, the issue with that is if you look at the big teams in England, obviously we have major holes to fill first up, so we are unlikely going to be going in for him. Man City, like Resurgence said, they don't bid for anyone above 85 or 90 million. Like it's the same thing happened for Koulibaly. They bid, I think, around 70, 75 and got rejected, so they moved on. The same thing's going to happen for Kane. They don't bid. I mean, it's ironic for someone who's breached FFP so many times. They have a financial transfer policy, which is ironic to the highest level. They don't bid for anyone above 85, 90. And so the moment a player's evaluation reaches three figures, they're out of it. They don't bid. I've never heard of a City bid going for 100 or a 95 at all. So City might be out on those grounds. That leaves Chelsea and Liverpool. Now, Liverpool need to sell at least one or two of their front three players to even attempt to make a bid. So either if they sell Salah or Mane for big money to one of the big clubs in Europe, that's the only possibility where they can make 100 or 120 million bid for Kane. So again, highly unlikely they step into the picture. The only ones that left is Chelsea. Now, with Chelsea, they've just spent 300 million last summer. Now, Roman Abramovich is someone who I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to spend another 150 on Kane. But again, I just don't see where he fits. I mean, I just don't see Werner getting sold after one season. I don't see that happening. I think Tuchel wants to give him a bit of
Werner
time.
can play on the wing, can't he, as well? So you can
Yeah,
always
But if Tuchel does see Werner as a striker, I don't see how
I don't think he does. Most of the reporting says they want a striker this summer. I think he wants a focal point and then have Werner playing just off of him on the left, similar to how Rashford does for us.
I think he'd be better in that position anyway.
But then they have the conundrum of Pulisic as well. So, and then they've got Ziyech already on the right. So again, it's their situation to solve. I'm not going to delve much into it, but all I'm saying is, I wouldn't be surprised if Roman spends another 150 for Kane, but I just don't see it happening because they've just spent 300 million last summer.
I think
So
the bigger
again-
problem with Chelsea as an option for Harry Kane is that Daniel Levy doesn't like to sell players to Chelsea. He told Luka Modric
Exactly.
he couldn't go 3 times and then sold him for less money to Real Madrid a year later. So
Yeah.
Daniel Levy's preference is going to be to sell him to anybody else. I think Daniel Levy would take 120 from City ahead of 150 from Chelsea. And so given that situation, I just don't see how it's possible for Chelsea to sign him. I really think Kane's choices this summer, given the finances in Europe, are the Manchester clubs and PSG potentially if
Yeah.
Mbappe moves. And I don't know if he wants to go to PSG. It seems like he wants to stay in the Premier League. And given that, and given the fact that we need other players, it just seems like it's City or nothing. And it doesn't seem like City's going to happen to me, at least with the asking price on his head.
Yeah, PSG seems a fair option. You know, they've got Pochettino there, they've got Neymar and Mbappe. You know, might not be a
What a
bad
front three.
overall, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I think, is there anything else anyone wants to touch on in terms of Sancho and Kane debate? You're done in terms of that, yeah. So, okay, so we'll move on to Manchester United versus Wolves, or Wolves versus Manchester United, I think. So, in terms of that, Dan, what were your thoughts on it? Are you confident going into it?
Semi-confident. I mean, I'm not totally sure. I mean, it's hard to say when you don't know the sort of team that he's going to put out. But you know, Wolves is always a tough game. No matter how badly they play, they always turn up against us. You know, they're always, it's always a very, very dogged fight. You know, they work hard in midfield. Ruben Neves and Vitinho. You know, they're just a hard team to play against, and I hate playing against Wolves. And it's a shame we've got this game on the final day because you know exactly what it's going to be like as well. You know, it's going to be very low scoring. It's probably going to be cagey, and there's not going to be a lot of goals. So, you know, I really, really would like to get a good result on the final day, given the results in the last couple of weeks. I would love to finish on a win, just to give us a bit of momentum going into the final. You know, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say what the result's going to be because you don't know how many sort of first team is going to start. I mean, Wolves have got nothing to play for, so they're just going to go full strength and they're going to want to get a result on the final day just for the sake of it. So I would love to win the game, and I would love to, you know, have a stress-free win as well. You know, when we're not chasing it in the final minutes. But given the team that Ollie's likely to put out, which is, you know, it's Ahmad, you know, potentially Elanga, you know, players like that. I'm unsure. I mean, I think I'd take a draw with a squad like that, but I would love a win on the final day going before the final.
Yeah, I mean, we've secured second place as well as obviously top four, so it's not like it really matters that much. But if for confidence than anything, I think it's really important that we do get the win, as you say. Daniel, are you confident going into it?
The Wolves game.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think we're going to see a lot of rotation. So I wouldn't be surprised if we drop points, to be honest. I don't think Ollie will want to play a strong team. I think he'll want to wrap all of the players up in cotton wool, given the fact that we've already lost Maguire. What we're not too sure about McTominay and Fred. I don't think he'll want to risk anyone else. So I wouldn't be surprised if we play a really weak team, kind of maybe along the lines of what we played for the Leicester game, maybe slightly stronger, but not sort of that sort of area. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we rotate a lot.
I know that you're going to mention him at some point today, so I just thought I'd drop this in there. Hannibal Mejbri's just won under 23's Player of the Year.
He deserves it, to be honest. He's been so good, and I would love if he gets his debut against Wolves. I wouldn't expect him to start. Like, you're not. Most players don't make their debut from the start. But I don't know, 15, 20 minutes off the bench in the second half would be great.
I don't think he's made a senior team squad yet, has he?
No.
But you know, I think he could come off the bench potentially, or he'll at least be in the squad. But yeah, United resurgent in terms of the Wolves game. Are you confident?
Not really, given the form that we've been in, given the fact that we'll probably be playing a lot of reserves in this match. So my view on it is it's similar to Leicester. I'm just looking forward to seeing some of the younger players get to play. I'm hoping Ahmad will get minutes. I'm hoping Donny van de Beek will play. I'm hoping to see maybe some of Brandon Williams. I think Dean Henderson will come back in goal. So it's just more about seeing players that we don't usually see for me than it is about getting the 3 points. Like it's not going to make a difference. We're going to finish second either way. I'd rather finish second with 74 points than 71 points, but ultimately that's not a huge factor when you consider that we have the Europa League in the midweek upcoming. So for me, it's not a fixture that I'm too excited about or too worried about either way. I'm just hoping to see us try and play some good football and hopefully have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, fair enough. Finn, would you agree with the others? I don't think anyone's really particularly confident.
Yeah, I don't agree with the fact that Wolves are a fun team to play against. They're just very frustrating.
Don't get me wrong, they're very negative. They're not a fun team to play against. I'm saying I'm hoping we have some fun in the match. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so too. But yeah, I mean, I was just looking at the Wolves, their recent record in the last 10 games. They've lost 5 and they won 3 and they've drawn 2. So they're not in a good run of form, and they just lost to Everton. I think was it yesterday? Yeah, and so um, not the best, not the best run of form. KG team, 0-0s, 1-0s. That's been most of our score lines against them. So it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be physical. They're going to sit back and we're going to have to sort of break them down pretty much throughout the game. And plus, we're expecting a lot of rotation, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, given the fact that the final is just 2 days after the game, I think the game's on Sunday and the final's on Wednesday, I think. Is it Wednesday or Thursday?
Yeah, I believe it's
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Right. So all the more reason why you wouldn't want to play any of the first team players. Rest all of them, and yeah, just play out the bench, see what happens, and if you need, say, for like 5 or 10 minutes, just get 1 or 2 of the first team players if really needed, which I don't think it will be. I'll take a draw, honestly. I'll take a 0-0 or even a 1-0 sneaky win, yeah, and just like end it off. 72, 74 points, I think it should be good enough.
Yeah, spot on. So in terms of the lineup, then move on to that. What does Daniel think? What would your defense be? Do you want to start with that?
I would rotate the fullbacks. So I would play Williams and Telles. I'd pick a pretty similar team to the Leicester game. I don't know about exact. I can't remember exactly what that was, but it was a heavily rotated team, and that's what I go for.
So I've got it in front of me, and the team against against Leicester was Williams, Bailly, Twanzebe, and Telles.
See, I'd rest Lindelof, and then so I suppose that leaves you with Bailly and Twanzebe. You've got to play them because you've got to rest Lindelof if Maguire's not going to be fit for the final. So yeah, I think it kind of speaks for itself that it needs to be Bailly and Twanzebe.
I would agree with that back four. Just out of curiosity, no one mentioned the goalkeeper. We're all thinking Dean Henderson for this one to in the final.
Yeah.
Okay.
No doubt. As for the fullbacks, yeah, I mean, Telles starts obviously.
I mean, I suppose they sort of the argument. Well,
yeah. No, I was just mentioning so the centre backs. I mean, it's a tough one because with Maguire being out, you just have 3 centre backs to rely on, of which you're going to use 2 for the final, and so obviously you got to rest Lindelof, and I'm not sure about Phil Jones's condition.
He's ruled out.
Fair enough.
Stop that.
He's ruled out.
First of all, he's ruled out. Second of all, we'd be better off playing with 10 men anyways. So
I'd rather put Matic in the back four than Phil Jones.
I'm just exploring all possible options. I mean,
yeah, Phil Jones is not a possible option though. It's a better idea. I think Mike Phelan played some center back in the 90s, right? So just have him get the kid on and go out and play.
Yep.
Probably a better idea.
Yeah, I would rather play Nemanja Matic in a centre back pairing.
You know what? Don't be surprised if that happens on Sunday. Don't be surprised if that happens.
I know.
Yeah, but again, for now, I think it's going to be Bailly, Twanzebe, Telles, and Williams. I'm not too sure if Williams is. Should we really play Williams? I mean, because he looked sketchy against Leicester as well. So I'm not really sure. I've just gone for Wan-Bissaka on this one. But again, like then sub him off at like 45 minutes at halftime, take him off, get Williams on, and then just like, you know,
I
mean,
think it's been a bit of
I
a
would
hard
play
year
him
for
in-
Williams
I
as
would
a
play him
whole,
in
really.
there.
The result doesn't matter. Let Brandon go out there, get his customary yellow card, and have a good time. I don't really see why we would risk Wan-Bissaka. I mean, if he rolls his ankle in the first half, we're going to look, or Ollie will look like an idiot if he picks him. So the
Yeah,
smart
I
decision is
agree.
the game doesn't matter. Just rest him.
I
And
would
this is
rather
why we
lose
need a
the
right
game
back
than
in the
be down
summer.
Wan-Bissaka.
Yep. All the more reason.
It's a
Yeah.
shame. It's a shame that we don't have. Going back to centre back for a minute, it's a shame that we don't have an academy option available at the moment, because we only really have
Yeah.
Fish, who's 17, and it's obviously way too soon as a centre back, and Mengi, who's injured. So yeah, there's no option there.
Would have been perfect for
Thank you,
Michelin,
Kevin.
wouldn't it?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I think the back five is pretty much settled. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do people think in terms of the midfield? Do you think it's going to be the same as Leicester? You know, Mata, Van der Beek, Matic, something like that.
Probably.
That's what I'm hoping for, yeah.
That's what I'm looking at. Yeah.
The one
I
thing
think
we
that's
have to
good,
consider
yeah.
though, if McTominay and Fred are out, I know we don't think they will be, but if they are, then Matic will have to play in the final, and then that might mean he couldn't play against Wolves. So that would be something to consider.
We don't have any defensive midfielders other than Matic, though. So if McTominay and Fred are out, you're resting Matic. Who are you going to play in midfield with Van de Beek?
It would. I don't know. It's difficult because like that's not the situation you want to give Galbraith his debut. You want to put him. You want to surround him with. You want to surround him with senior players.
Yeah,
I always
exactly.
think back to Josh Harrop on the final day against Crystal Palace, where we'd never heard of him before, and he came on and scored. I always think back to that on the
Yeah,
final day. Of the
I remember
season.
that. I remember that goal.
I think back to James Wilson when Ryan Giggs was the interim manager. Although we'd heard of him, he was supposed to be quite promising at that point, but he came on and had a great time.
There was what? James Wilson. There was Nick Powell as well, if you remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bunch of them. They just one-off appearances. There was Makeda as well during Silas Ferguson's time. Came on for 2 games as a substitute, scored the winning goal, and then he was just off. There's no way.
Oh, that's an iconic goal as well. That is.
That was beautiful.
But yeah, I think Matic and Van der Beek starts. I think Ollie would want to give McTominay and Fred as much time as possible for the final to recover, recoup, and yeah. I don't think it's as serious as it sounds like Maguire's. I think they should be fine with a week off. And yeah, so you play Matic, Van der Beek, and Mata up front as the 10.
Yeah.
As we mentioned before, I mean, even if you play Mata for 60, 70 minutes and you bring Hannibal on for the last 20 minutes, it'd be excellent to see him.
Yeah, definitely.
Let him see what it's like when he actually has some protection from the refs, as opposed to in the Premier League 2.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we all agree on that midfield. So in terms of the front three, I think it's a little bit more tricky. What do you think, Dan?
I mean, I think Ahmad's definitely going to start.
Yeah.
I mean, who do you play on the left? I mean, maybe we don't really know the situation. What's the situation with Dan James? Is he supposed to be back to the final?
Yep.
I was looking at the Premier Injuries injury table, which is a very good source, and they have, I think it was 25% chance that Martial and James are back. So I think it's 50% for James, sorry, but I think it's unlikely that both of them start. You should assume that they're going to be on the bench at best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think Ollie said for the Liverpool game, was it, that James was fit, like he could be expected.
But he wasn't on the bench against Fulham yesterday, earlier in the week. So
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be fit to start.
Going at it from a slightly different angle, 2 of the forward players that I don't want to see start are Rashford and Cavani. Those 2 I want the rest.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
Absolutely.
actually make a very controversial statement there, and I think Ollie's going to do this. It's not just my opinion. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will do this. I think we're going to see Marcus Rashford start against Wolves, and he's going to be on the bench in the final. The reason why I'm saying this is because, 1, he didn't start against Fulham, which I thought was a bit odd. And number 2, Mason Greenwood's just been in better form. Paul Pogba's been in better form. So, and Cavani's been in better form. So they're really on form. Isn't a place for him in the team. So my expectation is we'll see Rashford play against Wolves, and then we'll see the front four against Villarreal be Mason Greenwood on the right, Bruno Fernandes in the middle, Paul Pogba on the left, and Cavani up front. So I think Rashford's going to be benched for the final. It's a big decision, but I think Ollie's going to make it.
I think he should make it. I totally agree with everything you just said. Pogba has been more effective on that left.
Yeah, and Greenwood more effective on the right as well.
Yeah.
So would anyone disagree with what the lad said there?
Yeah,
Rashford.
I mean,
So hold on, just to be clear. So if you're going with that set in the final, I think on versus Wolves, you'd probably go with Ahmad, Rashford, and Elanga, I guess, unless James or Martial are fit.
I think Greenwood will start.
You think Greenwood will start?
I think he will, yeah, at the weekend.
either
I
Rashford
doubt
or
he plays. If he plays Greenwood here, I don't think he plays him in the final, right? So
yeah.
One thing on Elanga, if he does start, I think he should play left wing. While he, in normal circumstances, he's a left winger who can do the job at striker, but that's at under 23 level. You don't want to put an 18-year-old up front against Wolves. So I think if you play him, it's got to be on the left wing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
similar
same.
to Leicester, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So Elanga on the left, or James, whoever, if he gets fit. Ahmad
The
on the
idea
right.
of James is fit.
And up front is either going to be Mason or Rashford who will start. So, and then depending on that, we'll see if they're going to be in the final or not. So,
I think it's
Okay.
a safe bet that whoever starts up front against Wolves is going to be on the bench in the final. And I just think, based on the fact that Rashford was on the bench against Fulham, he's the one who's going to start against Wolves. And that also makes sense based on form.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anyone, any other points? Because we might be finishing it here.
I just hope we
Yeah.
see some new faces
That'll
that
be
we
fun.
haven't before. It's final day of the season. It's always good to see some academy boys with, we're not allowed to play for. I mean, hopefully we see Hannibal. I personally don't actually watch a lot of academy football, to be honest. Something that I wish to change, but at the moment I don't. So I would love to see, Hannibal.
The shorter
on the bench, players like that.
Shorter tier could come on as well eventually.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of advice for Ollie. The result doesn't matter. I don't see any reason to be subbing on the likes of Cavani and Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, play the team that we just talked about, and then stuff the bench with kids. Bring on Hannibal Mabry for his debut. Give Ethan Galbraith some minutes. Whoever else is ready in the academy, just give them minutes at the end instead of trying to, we're 1-0 down against Wolves. I'm going to try to get a result here in a meaningless game, so I'm going to risk Cavani for 20 minutes. You might say, 20 minutes will help him stay fit for the final, but there's also a risk he turns his ankle in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We saw Harry Maguire he didn't get injured because he played too many games. He got injured because he twisted his ankle. And so there's every risk of something like that in a 5-minute cameo, 10, 20-minute cameo. So there's no need for it. Just play the reserves and then put the kids on. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think all of us would much rather lose the game than lose, a starter.
Yeah. I'd actually love to see Charlie McNeil, but I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm just grabbing a comfortable position. Jeez, I'm just grabbing a comfortable position. But yeah, in terms of lastly predictions, I don't know. 'Cause as we were saying, it depends on what sort of team Ollie's going to pick. But I don't know. I guess I'll go with 1-1. Vin, what do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be an edgy 1-0 win to United. It's not going to be a high scoring, obviously. Just one goal from either Mason or Ahmad, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, your prediction?
Yeah, I agree with Vin. I mean, it's not going to be high scoring. It's probably going to be 1-0 to us or maybe even them.
United versus Agent?
2-1 could go either way, but I'll go for United just based on the law of averages. We have to win a game sometime. We haven't won the last 3, so I'll say that we win 2-1 and Ahmad scores.
I'd love that. Daniel, what do you think?
I'm going to go with a 1-1.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll end it there then.